happy Sunday. Here, I'm turning.
Yes.
There we go. Oh my goodness, I feel like I haven't seen you in so long.
I know. Wait, congratulations on getting engaged.
Thank you. I know it's been exactly a week. We were like on a walk this morning, and I was like, let's try and recreate our picnic. So we like got donuts and went to the park and sat there and ate them. And I'm like, it's not the same.
Ah, so cute.
It was so nice. It
And
was
you're
so
totally surprised?
totally surprised. Like he had me thinking we were meeting a friend of his who was in town from New York for lunch and that we were bringing our dog because his two daughters wanted to play with him.
Yeah.
When we walked past the whole picnic that you saw the pictures of, like I literally looked at it and said, "Oh my God, that's so pretty. Somebody must be getting engaged." Like I had no idea.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. But of
It was
course, you were dressed so cute and like camera ready with your like dress and jacket and shoes.
I was like, I said to him, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do my hair. He goes, so just put your hair in a ponytail. But I was like, what do I even wear anymore to leave the
Right,
house to go
right.
to? I was like, oh, I'll just put on a dress. But no,
Amazing.
he got me good. He
So
had it
great.
all planned out, like shocked,
That's
shocked.
so great.
Yeah,
Oh, yay.
there's. Oh, are you there, or did it freeze?
Frozen. Okay, now you're back.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just know that this topic just keeps coming up over and over and over again. And I just think having somebody like you who's gone through it so gracefully and has created so many amazing things from it, I just think it will be so incredibly helpful. So I
Thanks.
guess to get started, just introduce yourself, tell a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Jodi Kalson, and I'm originally from South Florida, and I've actually known Romy since possibly elementary school.
I long
Yeah.
time.
And I lived in Florida, went to college in Florida, then I spent some time in Philadelphia, where my daughters were born. And before they were born, well, I'll back up a little bit. It took a really long time for me to get pregnant. It took a year and a half, and I ended up having IVF. So, there were a lot of struggles that came along with that. And when it was the time of the anatomy ultrasound, I had found out there was something wrong with one of my daughters. I was having twins. And we didn't specifically know what was wrong, but we ended up having to transfer my care to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And I had never even been in a children's hospital before I went through my experience. I knew nothing about children's hospitals. It was just, I knew they existed. That was really it. And so when I went to the children's hospital, I had to have an MRI and an EKG, and we found out that there was something wrong with one of my daughters, but we didn't know what specifically until she was born. And then I ended up, my water broke at 27 weeks, which was like, the doctors really wanted me to stay pregnant until 34 weeks to have the best chance possible. But I ended up giving birth at 27 weeks, so they were really teeny tiny, and it began a lot of preemie issues. So 4 days after my daughter Harley was born, we found out she had something called a type 4 laryngeal cleft, which was an abnormality of her trachea and esophagus. She couldn't breathe normally because normally it's two separate things, and hers was conjoined, like all the way down. So in order to survive, she needed to have a surgery to repair that, but because she was so early, she needed to grow a lot. So she needed to be 7 pounds to be able to have the surgery, and she was only 1 pound when she was born.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so there were just like a lot of preemie issues along the way, and she needed a couple different surgeries, and you know, we just like spent every moment in the NICU, and she had a twin, Micah, who was just a normal preemie. So she had normal preemie issues. So, you know, on the one hand, we were there with Micah and just, you know, watching her get through all the preemie stuff and grow, and she did great. And then Harley, it was just, you know, very difficult because she was very sick and she just had a lot going on. She ended up having a surgery to repair the trachea and esophagus and separate them. And it was actually like only done on one other baby in the world at the time. And the doctors really learned so much from that surgery. And I know they're able to use that going forward and helping other babies. And, you know, so part of me looks back at that experience and I try to think of it like she really helped all these other babies and, you know, help the doctors learn for the future. And, but unfortunately she was just really sick. And so she passed away at 8.5 months old. And when she passed away, I didn't really know how to tell people. I wasn't sure how to tell them. I've heard you say on your podcast how you try to make other people feel comfortable when you're talking about your experience. And I've had so much of that in life. Like, you know, it's always, it's okay. Like, you know, trying to make you, right. So when I wanted to tell people, I was like, how do I do it in some sort of way of flipping it around, you know? And I ended up setting up a fundraising page through the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And this was 7 years ago. So it was at a time where, like, I feel like everyone has a cause and everyone is like through social media and, you know, like promoting their cause. And it's so amazing. And there's so many unbelievable causes out there. But like back then, I felt like it was not as common to say
GoFundMe's and
right. Yeah, none of that was happening.
It was, nobody would have ever said like give money to me or someone
Right. So I ended up setting up this fundraising page, and it was kind of my way to let people know that she had passed away and just be like, if you want to do something, you can donate to the hospital. And I put a goal of like $5,000. And in like days, we raised like $20,000. And it was just like, it was my first experience really of like fundraising. And I was just so amazed by the support and love that I received in that way. And it just like was so incredible. And it really just like helped me. And then a few months after that, these women who were involved at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia with another event, they contacted me and they had asked me if I wanted to be involved in this event that they put on every year. And they asked me to be the keynote speaker. And, you know, I was part of the the committee, and we had a silent auction and, you know, like all this stuff. And it was like a cocktail attire sort of situation. And it was great to be involved in that. So I really liked that. And that was like my first event that I had ever done. And I just loved it. And I ended up doing that for 2 years with them. And then I decided I wanted to start my own event, and I would still stay on and help them. And I decided to start a fundraiser an event called Boo for Babies.
Boo for Babies.
Yeah. And so how that came about was one of my best memories in the hospital with Harley and my other daughter. I don't know if I've said her name yet. Micah is Harley's twin. One of my favorite memories is on Halloween, we were able to kind of like dress up the babies. And because they had a lot of equipment attached to them, you can't just like throw on a cute costume. You know, you kind of have to work with like the tubes and the, you know, like all the equipment. And so I had found these pumpkin bibs, like a big bib that I could just put around them, and then it didn't matter what they had attached to them. And I had both their names, like Micah had one that said Micah and Harley had one that said Harley. And I have a picture of them laying next to each other that I love, that it's them for Halloween and the pumpkin bibs. And so like that's what got me thinking I wanted to do a Halloween event. So anyway, I did this charity event called Boo for Babies, and it was an annual fundraiser where it was like a kids costume party because like I didn't want to dress up, so I just made it for the kids. Like, you kids dress up, and so like everyone came and people like donated stuff, and it was at like a fun kids place, and so I had that for I think 5 years, and as part of that, I sold these like Boo Cute Kids t-shirts. So
Yeah.
sure you saw kids wearing the t-shirts.
I know who have them.
Yeah, so I did that, and then I moved to Atlanta a few years ago, and I started also doing fundraising for the Children's Hospital here. But there's like a huge Halloween charity event that happens in Atlanta, so I kind of wanted to switch it up and do something different. So I do something called brunch for babies instead of food for babies, and yeah, just like I've loved doing the charity events. I just love being able to contribute in some way to the children's hospitals because they're just such amazing places.
Yeah.
And the stories you hear and the families who are there, and I just think for me and my experience being able to help other people has helped me in a way. And you know, people reach out to me all the time. Like I've had people reach out if they've had a baby in the NICU, or I've had people reach out if they've lost a child. I try to help in however any way I can. And then a little over a year ago, or maybe 2 years at this point,
last year like doesn't count.
Yeah, last year doesn't count. Like I don't even know what day it is ever.
Honestly, this past week was a lot, so I really couldn't tell you what day it is. That's why I'm being actually pretty quiet today, because I'm like a little bit out of it. It was a crazy week, but
yeah.
Okay, so 2 years ago.
Yeah, my daughter Micah, who's 7, turning 8,
So crazy that she's already going to be 8.
I know, it is crazy. It makes me feel old.
She is her identical twin, by the way.
I know. People always say that.
It's wild.
The pictures of me as a kid, I mean,
Identical.
you don't know which one is real, but I hope she doesn't have the awkward phase I had, because like that was terrible.
Oh, she's so cute, and she has the best personality.
I love her. By the way, I have to tell everyone, Romy never had an awkward phase, because when we were younger, Romy was always dressed really cool, and you know, it's like not surprising that you're in fashion and have your jewelry line. It's like so you.
No, I did have an awkward phase though. Braces and acne. I was on Accutane. You don't go on that if you don't. Look at Rachel. If you don't have pimples, you don't just go on Accutane for fun. But you're very, very kind.
I just saw Rachel write "ha," and she knows, because it's like everyone like. It's like when you were dressed like so cute. Romy was dressed cute. Like Romy always like had the cute clothes and stuff.
We can joy for that. Rachel can attest to the awkward phase. It was there.
But anyway, so Micah, like 2 years when she was 5. Well, I'll back up a little bit. Because I've done all these. What are they saying?
Rachel, the top, there's a picture of us where I'm wearing a shirt that says brat all over it, and it's just not cute of either one of us. And Margot's saying she's never seen them. I'll show you guys. Don't worry, they're there.
That's going on tomorrow's story.
Yes. Okay, sorry.
No. So I'll back up. So because I was always doing charity events and, you know, with the boot shirts and everything like that, I always just kept Harley's name present in our household. And Micah always knew about Harley. And she knew she had a twin sister. And I would always just, you know, say like, oh, Harley's in the sky. And, you know, she's getting to do all the fun things that you're getting to do up there that we do down here. And
love that.
And like on their birthday, we would always send balloons to the sky after. And
I do that too.
You do that for your dad?
Yeah.
And so I was just always wanting to keep her name as a presence in our house. And so when Micah was 5, she started asking more about like, well, what happens after you die? Like, you know, I remember we like at one point passed a cemetery, and you know, she's like, what is that? And so I explained that to her, and I just knew that, you know, when it comes to death, that you're supposed to tell kids like in a real, like realistic way what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I didn't want it to be so scary, and
Yeah.
so I like this idea of she's in the sky and getting to do all these sorts of fun things. And so I had this idea to write a children's book,
It's
kind of
amazing.
portraying that vision, and to kind of make the conversation a little bit easier when talking to kids about death. And I made it about 2 girls born on the same day, and one goes to live in the sky while the other is on Earth, and that she's getting to do all different things. But I thought even if someone loses a grandparent or, you know, an aunt or an uncle, it's just an easier way to explain it to kids. And so I came up with this idea. I wrote, they say it's a manuscript, but it's a poem. It's literally a poem. And so I wrote the poem, called it a manuscript, submitted it to a publisher, and they liked it. And so I ended up working really closely with this illustrator, and I picked like all the colors, and like I can't even draw a stick figure, but I knew in my head what I wanted.
What you wanted, so you could just exactly.
Yeah, so like I worked really closely with her, and I said like all the colors I wanted, and I actually have a copy here. So like really,
Oh my gosh, it's the best.
right.
I love it.
And then oh, and a portion of the proceeds go to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and it's just like really like bright colors, and you know, here's the balloons.
I love it.
And like there's like a pizza party in the sky, and it's basically like a dream sequence of she goes to sleep, and like the girl in the Micah character goes to sleep, and then she dreams about all these things her sister's doing in the sky. Yeah. Thanks. But yeah, I mean, it's just really meaningful to me, and to hear that it helps people. And even like someone we went to high school with, actually, their mom passed away from cancer, and her daughter was having a tough time, and she ended up buying the book, and she said it really helped her daughter. And she told me they had it on their coffee table for a while, you know, and it was just like, to hear things like that I've helped someone in a way, it's helped me so much. Like it has. So
I mean, I think it's amazing, and to your point, like it doesn't necessarily have to be about a kid or for a kid. I think just knowing, and like the reason why I say this week was exhausting is because on one end I got engaged and it was amazing, and then 3 days later our dearest family friends, their youngest son passed away unexpectedly. So it's just been a really awful week. And actually the funeral was this morning.
Oh, wow.
But what I was thinking when you just said that is that a few of us were talking, and a few of us have lost our parents, and we were like, how amazing would it be? Like, we're just envisioning that they were just there, like waiting for him. And like,
yeah,
that and that really there is a place where people go, and that they have people who love them there. And while they'll be sad that they're not here with the people they love on earth, and that will be sad that we don't have them, just to think that there is a place that everyone goes where they're back with other people that they love, and they can do the things that they want, and, you know, celebrate and watch over all of the people who are down here. So we were just talking about that, and I feel like that's sort of what that book portrays as well. It's just that it's not all horrible after.
Yeah, no, and my dad passed away a few years ago, and you know, it was so hard and so sad, but part of me is like thankful that he's with Harley. Like I believe that, you know, and like that he's taking care of her. And I actually have a character in the book that like looks like my dad, that I made specifically. So like right here, there's like
and they're like running around up there.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, and my grandmother passed away like right at the beginning in February of last year, and it was right before COVID, and looking back, we actually think she might have had COVID, and it was just right before her because they couldn't
Yeah,
figure out what was wrong with her. She was in the hospital and breathing problems, and yeah.
probably.
So, and I just like I do think they're all together, and before I had this experience, I never gave any thought to what happens after you die, you know.
Yeah.
And now it's like I want to believe that there is a place, and
Yeah, I mean, listen, like until you go through something like this,
yeah,
I'm sure you would think that anything people like us think about is a little bit crazy, but I don't know, it makes me feel good. Like again, the people that I was talking to today also said it just like it makes the loss a little bit easier knowing that they might now be with people who will just take care of them somewhere
yeah,
else.
for sure. And like another thing I know that you're so into that I was thinking I would bring up was how you love signs,
Love
you
sun.
see signs from your dad with the you see digns everywhere, and it's like such an amazing thing. And that's like another thing that I didn't necessarily believe in or ever think about. And then I had two kind of recent things that happened, and this is more about my dad than Harley. But one of the things was last year we were in Florida over Father's Day, and that's where my parents are from. And so it was tough being there without my dad. And one of my favorite things to do with my dad growing up was go to the movies. He loved going to the movies. Like I loved going with him, and we would see anything, and getting candy and popcorn, and so it was like during COVID, but they had this thing at Hard Rock Stadium where you can go outside and sit like in your
That's
own little.
fun.
It was awesome. You could sit in your own little like tent and a comfy leather chair and watch a movie on the big screen. Yeah, so I ended up taking Micah at night to go see a movie that night, and it was Father's Day, and we're watching the movie, and it was like sundown, but it wasn't dark yet, and it was like it was like supposed to rain, but it didn't, or I forgot what it was, but all of a sudden I looked over
Rainbow.
and saw a huge rainbow, and
So
you
perfect.
remember from the cover of my book, it's like a
I was
Micah
gonna say,
character with a rainbow. And Michael was so excited to see a rainbow. And I like really just felt like it was my dad and Harley sending us this rainbow. And it actually had Micah lay down on the turf like this and took a picture of her. And I have it. It's so cute.
that's
But
so
like, yeah,
cute.
but like I don't know. I felt like that was a sign. It was like a tough day, and it was
Yeah.
just like seeing this beautiful rainbow, and she was so happy and excited. And then the other thing, speaking of movies, is when we would go to the movies, his favorite candy was Goobers, which is like such a random candy. It's so
I
random.
I
It's
never
like
get
who
goobers.
gets those?
I
Do
love
they
candy.
exist?
I've never gotten goobers.
They're actually good. It's like chocolate covered peanuts. But
I was gonna
anyway,
say it's like peanuts, right?
yeah, it's a chocolate covered peanut. But who gets that, right? It's so random. Okay, well, this is how weird this is. So I'm an attorney, but I'm licensed in Pennsylvania, and I live in Georgia now. Rachel's never heard of them. Go get them; they're good, I promise. Okay, so I'm licensed in Pennsylvania, and I live in Georgia, and so I just recently had to take the Georgia bar exam to get licensed here.
How fun.
So well, it was horrible, but hopefully I passed. Can everyone
I'm
say a
sure
little prayer?
we'll put the good vibes
Yes.
before you did.
Yeah. So anyway, so um in so it was in February, so it just happened. And the week before the bar exam, my boss sent me this really nice package, like a whole basket, and his wife has a nice business. She put it together for me, and there were like chips and cookies and
Goobers.
candies, and Goobers were in there. And she said and I reached right out to her, and I'm like, I can't believe you put Goobers in there. She's like, I love movie candies. And so she just must have like all kinds of like boxes of candies. So like, what are the chances? And so I had the box like on my table where I was studying the whole week up to the bar exam. I ended up eating them all. I wasn't going to even open them, But it was like, what are
It
the
was
chances? And
exactly when you also needed a sign because you were going
yeah,
always, I'm telling you, these signs always come at very odd times when you need them, or you're having
yeah,
a day or something really happy just happened, or you're thinking or talking about them a lot. And that's like a
right.
perfect example.
Yeah, it was just so amazing. And like my dad was always so supportive of me, like being a lawyer, and would have been so proud that I was studying and doing this. And it was just such a great thing and the most random candy ever of life. And I'm like,
I
this
love
has to be a
that. Wait,
sign.
that honestly, that's a good one. I love that.
Yeah,
Now I'm gonna, every time I go to the movies, whenever that might
I
be,
know, right?
I'm gonna always think of you when I see a box of goobers. It's a yellow
Rachel,
box.
go get them. She's never heard of them.
I wait, it's a yellow box, isn't
No,
it?
blue.
Oh,
Yellow is
blue.
Milky Ways. Oh, no, no.
Raisinets.
No, Raisinets.
Yeah,
That's the
my
other.
mom raisinets.
Yeah.
That's
But
so
yeah, no, it's like it's great with with signs, and it makes you think of, the person and them being gone, and I don't know, it's just all this stuff, and like even just back to the whole charity events thing, and
sorry.
seeing how many people do such. Oh, milk duds. That's what I was thinking
Yes,
of.
that's the yellow
The
box.
yellow one, milk duds. I like milk. My dad liked milk duds too. My
My
mom,
mom
milk
loved
duds.
milk duds.
Yeah.
Loves milk duds.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just like it's doing all these things to
Yeah.
keep people's memories alive. It's so wonderful and helpful, and you're helping others, and what you're doing, and it's just like it's a great time in the world where people are just wanting to do good and be
Yeah.
helping others, and when you're doing it in memory of someone and for someone, it's more meaningful.
Yeah,
So
I agree completely. I mean, especially with Sincerely, of course, it was never intended on being a jewelry brand. It was just a gift for my mom. But then when we made a handful for family and friends, and you realize like the pieces do really have an impact on people because it's like a tangible piece of somebody who's no longer here if you're getting something that is from a loved one lost that you can really have with you at all times.
yeah,
And
it's amazing.
so I've, heard from so many people now over the years who they're like, you don't understand like what this means to me. And it really just does feel like so great. And some of the relationships I made with some of my customers who are now friends, I went on a walk with one of them last week. And it's just, yeah, it's really nice. And it's also, unfortunately, we're part of one club, you're part of another club. And it's like, the people who are in the club, while it's the worst club of all time, really are an amazing group of people. So it's always great to meet, really strong, amazing people. Rachel wanted me to ask you if Micah has any twin tuition, she called it.
Oh,
Obviously, twins are an interesting thing.
yeah,
And
they are.
yeah, so she was just curious if as Micah's gotten older, if if she's gotten any feelings or signs or has ever said anything to you suggesting.
Hmm. Not that I can really think of. There's like certain things, that are very special to her. She hasn't said anything like she's felt her presence or anything like that, but she, sometimes she'll bring her up, and it's interesting. Riley, my younger one, has recently
Also,
started
so
asking about her.
that's so
Yeah,
nice.
and I actually have this thing at my house where it's Harley's handprints, and they were in, it's like plaster, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
where you can feel like the insides, and it's like in a heart shape, and I just keep it in my closet, like away from anything. And Riley sometimes wants to touch the hands, and she's just very interested, and she's almost 5 now, and it's like when Micah started asking questions too, really. So
That
yeah,
makes
no, but I mean, Micah has certain things that are like very special to her. Like she has this bear that was made out of Harley's blankets that the nurses made her. after we left the hospital. They put this teddy bear together out of Harley's blankets, and Micah loves that, and
So
it's just
sweet.
really special. But I don't know, maybe as she gets
Gets
older,
a
because I have heard of that when people get older. So yeah,
that will
uh,
be a thing.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, like, it's just one of the difficult things is, one of my most difficult things is when people, I'm very open in my experience, but one of my difficult things is when people will ask, like, how many children I have, or like,
Yeah.
or they hear Micah's a twin, and it's like, oh, her sister, and it goes back to the making other people feel comfortable, and
Yeah. I actually had another friend who was on here who lost her baby at around 33 weeks.
mm,
And she now was fortunate to get pregnant again and has a healthy baby.
oh,
But
good,
says the one thing I can recommend, which I will ask you as well, because I just think it's helpful for people to know, myself
mm-hmm.
included, is that never to ask somebody or say like, "Oh, is this your first?" or
Yeah,
anything like
yeah,
that, because especially nowadays, you just
yeah,
know what somebody's gone through, what they've
right,
experienced, and you don't want to. So she
yeah,
said that as well.
it's true for sure. Yeah, like, even I don't even know. I have a lot of difficulty when people ask how many children I have. Because it's like, I have three, but I lost one. Or
Right. Yeah,
it's
it's like
an
that.
awkward thing.
It's
What?
yeah. I mean, it's still the same way. Like I'll talk about my parents, and then people
Right.
will say like where, and I'll be like, well, my mom, and then
Right. I
like,
say the same thing. Where
and
do
then
your parents live? They say, where do your parents live? And it's, well, my mom lives in Florida. My dad passed away.
yeah, and you're like waiting for the reaction, and you're like, no, it's
It's
okay,
fine. It's okay. Right.
fine, don't worry, because people
Right.
then are like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, and I'm like, no, it's okay.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Oh
It's
gosh,
just like the way of a way of life, like, you know, and you always, I don't know, it's like I always feel the need to make other people feel comfortable, and
yeah,
because I've gone through it, and I've had the experience for so long, it's not new to us.
yeah,
It's something you always live with, and I'm sure also with, like, your engagement, it's like you think about how your dad's not here, and
yeah,
it's just like there's always going to be times where things come up, and then you just have to react to them.
yeah.
But
It's true. But I did find out from my brother that my fiance, which
yeah, hey.
we went to visit my dad at the cemetery in Florida one day, and obviously he couldn't say it out loud because I would have heard, but he, like telepathically asked his permission or said, and then at
And
Paso,
Michelle's,
I know when I found that out, I started, of course,
yeah.
bawling because this is the only thing in history that my dad ever like wanted to happen. Like I always joke, I'm like, he's probably spinning around in circles under there, like now somewhere very far away because he's like dug a hole. But he then at Passover asked my brother, because and he said my brother's like, Jordan's so like easy and like so even keel that I wasn't expecting him to say what he said, but he was like, oh, Romy and I went to go visit your dad the other day, and I told him I wanted to marry your sister, and he didn't respond, so I wanted to ask you. Yeah, yeah, so it's just like, I know it sucks, but I feel like, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah,
We'll keep him very much part of the whole process and talk about him through it and incorporate him in any way that we can, when the actual wedding happens,
yeah,
because he would have been very happy. But yeah, listen, it's such is life, the way that shit just happens and it's not fair, but
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So my only other question for you is there anything you would, any advice you would give to somebody who's newly going through, you know, a late term pregnancy loss, a child passing away young, any, you know, infertility, anything like that that you have, you know, experienced?
Um, I think it's important to, you know, communicate, whether it's with your partner, whoever you're going through this with, a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, you know, if you're going to, some people go through it on their own. And it's just, there's so many ways of conceiving, and, you know, like whatever your situation is, if having a support system and, you know, talking to your family or friends, or there's so many support groups out there now you can find through social media, and therapy. I actually didn't end up getting therapy after, but I had a great support system, and you know, I just found meaning, which helped me through the charity events, and I was very lucky that I had Micah.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a completely different experience if I didn't have her, because I had to be very strong for her, and I had to go on and, you know, keep doing things with her. And I was really lucky to have her. And and now Riley, I have a younger daughter. I don't even know if I mentioned her name, but, you know, I know a lot of times people, it's like once they have that next kid, it really helps them, but
Yeah.
it's still a loss. And, you know, no one replaces the child or baby that you lost. And, you know, and then you hear things like, oh, well, it wasn't meant to be. And it's, I don't like any of that, you know, it's like everyone has their own experience. And I think communicating and, you know, maybe finding something that you find meaningful is helpful.
I agree with
Um,
you.
yeah.
I think it's very,
Um, yeah, for sure. But it's just, it's a sad thing, and it's, and especially with like infertility, and, you know, people who have like experienced miscarriages, it's so common. And
yeah.
the fact that it's like still so tough, hard to talk about. And then you read things how, you know, people can't get off work when they're grieving, and it's just like a sad thing. And hopefully as time goes on, you know, there'll be some changes with that. But
So it seems like, especially from the one that my friend that I was talking to about a few minutes ago, she had a really hard time because her work wouldn't give her any time off. They didn't consider the baby like
a
a
person,
person,
or yeah, I
which
know.
is insane to me. And so she had been working closely with, you know, some groups in Manhattan to change the bereavement law. And I think they're making some stride with that. So that's good. And hopefully over time, now that, you know, with social media and everything and people being much more vocal about their experiences, you know, you would hope that things will start to change, because it is so necessary to have that time and
Yeah,
to really focus on what just happened. You know,
yeah,
people do prefer to just throw themselves back into work or whatever the case is. But, you know, I always say that if you don't deal with your grief in the beginning when it happens, it will come back and bite you in the tush at some point, whether it's a month later, a year later, 10 years later. So you're going to have to deal with it at some point or another.
yeah,
Um, so, yeah,
yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, people definitely grieve in different ways, and, you know, it's, and however anyone chooses to do it, it's their process. And yeah,
I
so
I agree. Well, I'm so happy to have had you on here, and thank you so much. I'm gonna actually, I don't know what that means, but I'm gonna put a swipe up also on my story for purchasing the book. So if any
oh,
here, you know,
nice.
wants to order one for if they learned about it and they think, and then I'll save this to my stories so you can share it. It'll live here. And then I'll also tomorrow send you a link for YouTube. That way, if any of the elderly folk who don't use Instagram want to watch it, they'll be able to at least just click on a link and watch it somewhere else.
I was so happy to see my mom comments because it was like, no, you don't go to Romy's page. You go to the Sincerely page, and it's on Instagram, not on Facebook.
How is your mom?
Good. She's good.
Good.
Yeah. Thanks.
Good.
How's your mom?
She's doing well.
She's so happy about the engagement.
So happy.
Has the planning started?
Slowly but surely. Yes, slowly but surely. It's been a weird week, and like, not to end this on such a sad note, but with my family friend who passed away, it's just so crazy to me. It's hard for me to sort of be happy for myself right now. Yeah. I'm glad now the funeral is over and that like the family can start to also move forward and everything. I just like felt like I couldn't even function this past few days, like knowing what they were going through. Yeah. I just said to my mom, I'm like, it's so wild because my mom and this family, they share the same group of friends. Mm-hmm. Like we all grew up together, vacation together, all of these things. And I was just like, it's just so crazy to me that 2 days before everyone was so elated and happy for my mom and her kid. Mm-hmm. 2 days later, on a completely opposite end of the spectrum, the other family member, everyone was just as equally as devastated for that family and their child. So it was just like a very strange week. And it just also sort of made me realize, because people kept telling me you have to disassociate your engagement with this. And like the way that my personality works is it will just consume me, and I can't, because right. I get like sick and very sad and I just can't think about anything else. But the truth is, it really just goes to show like the ups and downs of life, and like how good things happen and bad things happen, and people go through them and they come out on the other side one way or another. And so I think just a reminder that you really have to just like enjoy your life and be happy and do all the things that you want to do and can do, because you just never know.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So crazy times, but but that she's had a hard week, my mom.
Yeah.
Happy as she is, I feel like now we'll be able to start. It was weird. It was a weird week. But yeah, so all good things hopefully to come, and I'm so glad to see you're doing well, and the girls are so cute, and I'll keep looking at their pictures on social. And I'll share the book. And again, thank you.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Of course. Have a rest of your night. Mwah. I'll talk to you.